Play-based learning is the intentional use of engaging students actively in their learning experience. It's a deeper learning experience for children in which they are actively engaged and also starting to make meaning of ideas.
There are particular things we want kids to learn, and yet we want it to be playful and interesting and involving. Those, to a lot of teachers, I think, seem like they're going in totally different directions, and I don't think that's the case at all.
We know play-based learning actually encourages children's spatial and mathematical capacities, as well as their early literacy skills, such as the ability to tell stories in a logical fashion. We also know that it's a key element in building executive functioning skills or self-regulation, and being able to monitor their own behavior and engage with their peers in a meaningful way, and having teachers model that for them and support that and scaffold that engagement is really helpful in pushing that brain development.
Your standards and your student outcomes are at the forefront of any lesson design, and you can achieve that without worksheets. You can achieve that through play-based instruction.
A play-based approach overall needs to have a strong emphasis in social skills as well. That requires the child to know how to share, know communication skills, make eye contact when they're connecting with their peers. It's safe. So the safer the learning environment, the bigger the risk the child is willing to take.
Play-based learning really allows teachers to become much more familiar and build stronger, more positive relationships with their students, and that they're engaging them and pulling that experience into the classroom. Once you get past the first few months and you really know your students, you understand their background, that is something that can be built into the connections that you're making.
It is important for kindergartners to have that hand-on activity. It is key for them to feel motivated and excited.
It's important that we recognize that 4- and 5-year-olds don't have the same attention spans, ability to sit for long periods of time, and ability to concentrate. You have to plan accordingly, and that might mean something as simple as changing the activity more often. Instead of that 20-minute lesson, maybe it's 4 or 5-minute lessons throughout the day.
Just think as a 5-year-old, what you would like to do is you would like to have some fun, some motivated learning experiences. And through the play-based literacy centers, you will provide those.
¿Estamos listos? Arriba, Lucas. ¿A cuál voy a lanzar primero? Letra R. Ru.
When I plan my lessons, I need to look if I wanted to teach syllables or little sounds. How am I going to transfer that into something that makes sense?
Excelente. Déjame ver a quién está bien participando.
They feel motivated and they feel fun because the activities need to be prepared for them to feel that, to include that into their learning.
We need to make sure that children early on learn letters and start to understand the phonological system of our language. When you're 3 or 4 or 5 and you're at a stage of life where you're learning dozens of new words every single day as you develop from toddlerhood to going off to school, this great explosion of vocabulary that happens with young kids. You're not perceiving the individual sounds as much as you're focused on the words themselves. And so being able to get kids to focus on the sound separate from the meaning.
I for it. J for jump.
You try to make it playful. You try to make it about song and language and so on. The research says teaching phonics is effective with young children, and that it not only helps them then, but it continues to be beneficial. It's been measured right through middle school and high school. The ultimate goal is the youngster has to be able to hear these sounds and distinguish them. I mean, when kids are first starting out, it isn't even the phonemes. It's not those individual sounds you hear within the word. It's the words themselves. Can you separate them out?
Now I want you to use your bubble gum and stretch all the way to the end of the word. What is at the end of the word bug? Talk to your partner. Say the end. What's at the end? Bug. What letter is that one? G. It is G. Oh, man. Students got another point. All right, last letter. We're listening for the middle sound. Show me a roller coaster. Remember, we're gonna go middle, up, and then down. Okay, so here's B. That's first. B, G. Turn to your partner. What is in the middle? Turn to your partner. Oh, what did I hit? I hit am. So I get to come over with my pencil. I want you to do at least the front page.
The tricky words.
So when you're at the library, you can help tell the story of the mitten. The first animal is that brown one. It has an M for its name. It's the mole. You can find the mole and put him in. You can find, here he is. You can find the mole and put him in the mitten.
Readers are able to explain and talk about the characters, the setting, the main events in the text, which is what we saw students doing today. Go back and retell that familiar story. You might have puppets or things that came from, a store, or maybe you just draw them yourself. You have your kids draw them. You put some things on popsicle sticks, and that's, a way that students can act out a story.
Think about a young child who's listening to stories being read to him by his kindergarten teacher. And the teacher wants him to do something like retell the story later. How do you remember that? How do you hold all those facts? Well, if you have an organizational structure, if you either can tell what it was in the original story or you can impose your own on it, you're more likely to remember it.
They were able to use the book to help guide them through and use the puppets to help retell the story and comprehend what was going on in the actual story. Every couple of weeks we'll have a new book with the characters, so that keeps the library kind of interesting and keeps them wanting to learn and engage.
With that young child, starting to teach them that stories have certain kinds of structural components to them. There's always going to be a setting there of some kind. That is, the author's going to tell you when this happened, where this happened, that kind of information. They're going to place it in time and space. You can remember that. There's usually going to be a main character. You can remember who that character is. That character is usually going to face some kind of a problem. And so if you know those kinds of parts, you can start to summarize and remember and retell and use the information to do what you want to do with it.
Trenton, does your story have a title? What's the title of your story?
A panther.
A Panther. The title is A Panther.
The children are really learning a lot of great comprehension skills when they act out a story. The author of the story is having to think about the narrative structure and sort of how it will progress. And as I take the dictation, I can help him sort of structure his story so that it makes sense. I can ask questions and clarify a little bit so that he gets his ideas clear and we can make sure the story makes some sense.
So Jacob, why don't you scoot over here so you can be part of the audience? Do we need the setting? Oh, where does he go?
He just goes on.
He goes on vacation.
And
a trampoline park. We have two settings. The actors, that are the children that are portraying the characters in the story, really have to infer the meaning when they're acting it out. So they have to make some assumptions as they go and infer where the author was going with his story. Now he bumps his head. Goes to the doctor. Okay, did the doctor check him out?
yeah.
Okay, what happened?
And he
If he just go on vacation.
The panther did? He just go on vacation. Okay, fly together to vacation. The audience too has to derive meaning from the story as they're listening to it, and they're helping each other. If an actor kind of freezes up in his character role, the audience is jumping in and telling him what he should do next and helping him sort of follow the plot of the story. He called out, "Red Lion!"
Lion.
And the airplane crashed. And there was a fire. What should he do?
Like this.
Look at the author. He's giving you an idea. There was a fire.
And they come back to life.
Who came back to life?
The airplane.
Oh, and the airplane came back to life. The end. It is a piece of paper and a pen and a group of children. I have done this in the hallway while we're waiting to get drinks. I've done it in the gym while we're waiting for an assembly to end. It's an activity that you can do at any time and at any place.
That dramatic play has a huge increase in literacy development, comprehension, vocabulary recognition, recall of events, sequencing of events.
It also deepens their vocabulary and thinking about using words such as setting, such as the storyline, the author, and understanding the implications of that, and the different roles that people have within each book. So not only are we building their cognitive capabilities, but also starting to build empathy as well as other social emotional skills and engagement with peers, which is pivotal to early development. Play-based learning helps bring literacy concepts to life through actually having children engage and tell their own stories and connecting it to their community, their families, their own experiences. So asking children to act out a story will actually show a lot of what they've experienced and what they bring to the classroom and how they actually are understanding what's happening and their comprehension of the story in and of itself.
I actually think about the play driving the academics. We definitely have academic components tied to state standards that we meet and we assess 3 times a year. But for me, the play is really the driving factor.
Play is very intentional. It's not just free choice, which is important, but it's also very intentional of here's what I want these students to learn as a result of the standards that I must teach for this grade level, but how can I get there in an innovative way? And that's play-based instruction.
You always have to worry about your audience. And so if I'm teaching a group of 5-year-olds, they're going to be wiggling in 2.5 minutes. And so I have to deliver it in a way that the audience is going to hear it, that the audience is going to gain from it. It doesn't always have to be, some esoteric, complicated, it's going to take me a long time to prepare for this lesson. It could just be as simple as, how are you going to have the kids respond to the question? And that could be very active or playful or funny or silly, whatever.
Kids need to get up, they need to use their body. Like I will often tell my students, when we use our eyes, our mouth, our body, our brain, we learn it better. One more thing that really helps in having children play in meaningful ways is to model for them how to use the materials and how to use the centers.
Playing demonstrates rule following, turn taking, reciprocal conversations, interacting with peers, helping one another. Those basic foundational skills that we want our students to walk in the door having, play provides.
I think a lot of teachers are hesitant to try play-based learning, primarily because it means a release of control or a concern about behavioral management. But what actually occurs is as children get used to the idea of play-based learning and the modeling is happening with teachers, there's actually a decrease in disciplinary issues. In all honesty, you just need the resources that you have in front of you, and it's thinking about approaching it differently.
We're taking informal visits to their classrooms before and after schools, checking out what we're doing, talking about it at lunchtime, sharing material, sharing ideas.
I'll walk in their classroom and be like, what did you do for that? So I kind of sometimes just look in their room and I'm like, that looks great. What did you do? Where did you get it? How could I do it?
The best thing you can do is go and try some of these ideas out.
Start slow.
Take that chance and let go of control. Something new takes time for children to adjust to, And so I would give it a week, give it a month, don't stop after the first day. What you'll start to discover is once those expectations become clearer, there'll be the deeper understanding, and you'll have children at the end of the day not wanting to leave.
My advice is just to start. Don't be afraid. You will love it.
If it fails, it's okay. You're never going to go wrong when you're playing.
Trust the kids and follow their lead.
Wow. That was interesting. Let's see if I can find another one. Let's pause this one. Pause. Make it shrink. Yeah. Let's go back. Let's do this one. Nothing like learning. Nothing like sharing.
School is a place where kids strive for academic success. But experts say there's a clear connection between good grades and good health.
The health of a child can absolutely determine how well he or she is able to perform in school.
Ohio students face serious health risks, and not all kids receive the care they need so they can show up at school ready to learn.
You need to meet the basic health human needs of a person before you can start teaching them how to do long division.
Some Ohio schools are part of a bold initiative to provide physical and mental health care to students on school grounds during school hours.
It's like having a full service clinic in a school.
When kids have equal access to health care, it means more opportunities for everyone to succeed in school and in life.
The healthier that children are, the better it is for everyone.
It is a community issue because healthy students create a healthy school, create a healthy community. Community medicine means we're really going out to meet people where they're at. And school health is really that. It's community medicine.
Common sense and scientific studies show healthier kids are better learners, but not all kids have equal access to health care. So, if students can't get to a healthcare facility, why not bring a healthcare facility to the students?
Look at, she's smiling too. Good morning, Isis. How are you?
It's called school-based healthcare. With nearly 2,000 centers nationwide, they range from clinics near campus to ones inside the school. Even mobile clinics like this one, parked outside of John Adams High School in Cleveland. The clinic is operated by Metro Health.
We can do sports physicals. We can do work permits. We can do a well child exam if they're already not established with a provider. We can do management for chronic care disease like asthma and diabetes.
Metro Health operates 15 school-based clinics in the county. It's an example of how districts, health providers, and community agencies come together and deliver care to kids on campus during the school day.
And Jen's gonna give you your shot. She's actually very nice. Needle? It's very tiny. For you, it's very tiny.
Oh, okay.
This clinic travels to a different school every day and sees about 300 students each month. School and clinic staff work together to make it happen.
Every school is different. We could have schools that are right across the street from each other. So we really talk to those principals to say, what are those things that you're recognizing in the classroom? How do we make sure we're meeting those needs? So it's really this open communication to really have that efficient care.
But open communication does not mean students' privacy or medical data are exposed. There's a thorough process to obtain parental consent and to observe the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, better known as HIPAA.
You have to build that relationship. It doesn't mean that you show up, you build a clinic, and everyone's going to come. They need to trust you.
Trust was definitely a factor for Tamara Foster, a John Adams graduate who stopped by the clinic to say hello to its family nurse practitioner.
He helped me with a very difficult time in my life. I'm not going to say what, but it was a hard time in my life. And I feel like he was the main person that was there for me, who was that shoulder to lean on if I needed someone to talk to
I like dealing with the kids. It's rewarding. We try to do a little extra sometimes, you know what I mean? We encourage these kids. We go out to the field and we check on them. We just get involved with them personally.
If this Metro Health van was not parked outside of this school, I would not have made an appointment to go to another Metro Health facility. Just for the simple fact that it's convenient. I'm here every day. It's right outside of my school. With the emotional support system that I had, the people that I had, they kept telling me, you're a smart girl, you can do this. So it helped a lot having people in your corner who believes in you.
This clinic, inside Mound STEM Elementary School on the southeast side of Cleveland, was the first school-based facility Metro Health opened 6 years ago.
So what do you do for exercise?
It's sometimes we have to do that thing for like 30 minutes. It's really hard.
Experts say school-based healthcare is one way to improve health equity. It's a term that describes the ability for everyone to achieve their full health potential. Challenges that create inequities include lack of access, lack of income, and lack of health insurance. One census tract analysis even showed residents from Ohio's wealthiest neighborhoods are expected to live 29 years longer than residents from the state's poorest regions.
How do we maybe shift these things with a younger generation so that hopefully they're not repeating some of the patterns that we're seeing in older adults?
We're going to do the same thing on the other side, okay?
Bringing the healthcare to the student resolves a lot of those challenges.
Matthew Linick is a researcher who worked with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District to study the impact of school-based healthcare.
We looked at how it might relate to their attendance, how it might relate to discipline, achievement. We also looked at how it would relate to health outcomes that were of interest to the hospital.
The research noted crucial connections between absenteeism and academic performance.
Every absence impacts your performance on standardized tests, on dropping out, on graduating. We found that for 9th and 10th grade students who miss 10 days in a year, their probability of being on track to graduate dropped by about 40%. On average, high school students missed 1.5 days less. And at some schools, like Lincoln West High School, those students missed 8 days fewer.
Knock, knock. Savannah? I am Dr. John. It's nice to meet you.
When attendance improved, so did
children actually have to be at grade level before you can even talk about attendance. Because there are all other kind of things that could be happening with the household or with family and illnesses. Attendance is relatively important, but the most important thing is that you ensure that children are at grade level. They just feel differently.
Students' grades.
We looked at how participating in the program related to grade point average. We saw that for high school students who participated in the program at schools like Lincoln West, GPA was 0.43 higher for students who were in the program versus students who were not in the program.
Do you want me to give you a hug? Okay. School-based healthcare also showed a reduction in the misuse of emergency rooms for non-emergency care. It's an option struggling families sometimes resort to if they can't access primary care physicians.
Providing care in an emergency room setting is incredibly more expensive than providing care in a primary care facility or through a school-based partnership. So the school was getting better attendance rates, they were getting better performance or grade point averages. But the hospital was saving money on emergency room visits. So ultimately, everybody who was participating was benefiting. You need to meet the basic health human needs of a person before you can start teaching them how to do long division or determine the difference between an adverb and a verb. The healthier that children are, the better it is for everyone, which I believe is the most important outcome that we can look at. Making children healthy and happy is kind of our societal responsibility.
Alexander Local Schools is located in Athens County, which is part of the Southern Appalachian Mountains, the rolling hills of the Appalachia.
The rolling hills are beautiful, but Athens is the poorest county in Ohio. 1 in every 3 families here lives below the poverty line.
I think they're doing the best they can, but not having enough food, coming from a broken home, not having the parents there, being in foster care. I think a lot of educators throughout Ohio were very frustrated. We're trying to teach, we want our students to achieve, but look what shape they're in. We know we are here to educate, but we also know they need to come to our doors ready to learn.
What's your beginning sound?
And that's where the district really looks and focuses on students, the whole child.
Yeah, good job. You heard that sound.
The whole child approach acknowledges that adversity affects learning. School-based healthcare is one way to create a more positive school climate. But for families who are already struggling, meeting basic healthcare needs might also mean facing unbearable choices.
If you talk to families, the working class families, and you're telling them, hey, you need to get your kid into counseling, there's services available in Athens City, they look and say, well, when do you want me to do that? Because I don't get home till 5 o'clock and they're closed. Or I've heard, I've got $20. Do you want me to feed my kids tonight, or do you want me to take them to Athens? Because it'll go towards gas and getting them in the clinic.
Students in pre-kindergarten through 12th grade are all located on the same campus here.
One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to check your spine to see if there's a curvature or any scoliosis. Have you ever been?
Physical and mental health services are located right alongside them.
We have Athens County Children's Services. We have Hopewell Health Counseling. We have Health Recovery Services. We were able to build a very nice facility for Holzer Family Medical Clinic. It's right on our campus.
Good morning. We're going to go straight in there.
The agencies accept Medicaid, private insurances, or some of them have levies and grant funding. Then they will cover them free of charge.
Hi, Debbie. Strap over on.
And okay.
We can pull a child out of the classroom for 20 minutes to a half an hour, get the medical attention they need. The child does not miss school, and the parents are not missing work.
Have you lie back? And I'm just going to take a listen, and then I'll poke, okay?
That on-site care is important because Ohio residents have health issues, lots of them.
The Health Value Dashboard is a tool that we've developed to track the health of the Ohio population and how much we are spending on healthcare as a state.
The dashboard was developed by the nonprofit Health Policy Institute of Ohio. It conducts independent, evidence-based research and analysis.
Ohio ranks 46 out of 50 states and the District of Columbia on health value. When we think about what impacts our health, there are a lot of factors. Of course, there's your genes that play a role in how healthy you are, but we also look at other environments and other factors that influence our health.
They're referred to as social determinants of health, and they influence 80% of a person's health and well-being.
Do we have healthy air to breathe? Do we have clean water to drink? Do we live in a house that has toxins like mold or lead?
Addiction is one of Ohio's most serious health challenges. The state has the second highest rate in the country for deaths from drug overdoses. Ohio also has high rates of smoking and food insecurity, and low rates for physical exercise and receiving childhood vaccines. With families facing so many challenges, it's not surprising that mental health rates are at crisis level too.
The suicide rates of children that are between the ages of 8 and 17 more than doubled in the last 10 years, which is very heartbreaking. We're seeing very high rates of depression compared to other states.
Well, do you remember us going over that big word, confidentiality?
The district partners with Hopewell Health Centers to provide counseling and other mental health services during school hours.
I go a little bit deeper than what school counselors can do.
It's called trauma-focused care.
Looking at how the trauma of whatever they've gone through
how that has affected how they think, because how they think affects how they act. Trauma is really anything. They've been removed from the home. They've been impacted by the drug epidemic, or parents are separating. Glad you're having a good day so far. Kids are resilient, but they need our help. How do you turn into a unicorn?
Children who experienced a significant number of these adverse childhood experiences have much higher rates of all different types of health conditions in adulthood, even cancer, heart disease, and unsurprisingly, addiction issues and mental health concerns.
Many of these conditions could be prevented or better managed in childhood if all students had fair and equal access to health care.
The disadvantage is that
These school-based health centers could be a great solution for our most vulnerable children in Ohio.
In the 5 years since it started here, school-based healthcare is already showing results at Alexander local schools.
We are measuring success by really looking at the data on the state local report card. If you look at the overall grade, majority of your districts are getting C's. But if you dig down into that data and you look at your absenteeism, you look at your graduation rate, you look at prepared for success and gap closing, when you see that progress at any level, that tells me what we're doing is working.
School-based healthcare is working in Columbus too. Nationwide Children's Hospital runs this clinic at East High School.
our school-based health center serves all of the children here at East High School, but children from any of the 110 Columbus City schools are welcome to be seen here in this clinic. We know that people who have a really good understanding of health and wellness and prevention live healthier lives and as a result achieve more.
In addition to doing well child checkups and treating illnesses, the clinic helps students who suffer from chronic conditions. The most common one is asthma.
Hi, Chloe.
Hey.
How are you?
Asthma is the top reason for school absenteeism nationwide.
And Taylor, how you feeling?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Nationwide Children's Hospital responded to the crisis with a school-based asthma therapy clinic.
You don't even know what's happening. All you know is that you're not breathing right. Like it just kept getting tighter and tighter. And like I had to like really explode my chest out to get more air and better air for me because I wasn't like, I could not breathe and I couldn't even talk.
During the past month, how often have you had to use your rescue inhaler or your albuterol? A lot of these kids, they think that's normal. They don't know that it's not normal to wheeze every day, to cough at night all night long. It's very treatable, but if you're not getting treated and you don't have the proper medication and follow-up, you can die from asthma.
900 students in the district are enrolled in the program. School nurses see them daily to monitor symptoms and administer medication.
A controller asthma medication is something that helps with everyday symptoms, controlling the inflammation and stuff in the airways. So that's something that's going to prevent them from having an asthma attack.
Since the asthma clinic started, data shows students who are enrolled experience significant improvement in attendance and a decrease in asthma-related visits to a hospital emergency room.
Have a great day, Chloe.
All right, bye.
Bye.
The school nurse also says the program provides emotional support for asthmatic students.
A lot of times when students have a chronic illness, they feel very discouraged.
24, 22, whatever you guys measure.
She make everything seem smooth. Like she made me feel comfortable about having it because I got a great nurse.
So that support, I think, really does help boost his confidence, knowing that I'm here every day to support him. It just kind of takes a load off so that he can just focus on being a teenager.
The school nurse is absolutely critical to the partnership being successful. The school nurse tends to know the history, knows the family, and then the school nurse also does a lot of the follow-up. The continuum of care that we're able to achieve in a school-based health center is really remarkable.
One way the clinic supports student health is by offering lunch and learn sessions. Today, the topic is sexual and reproductive health.
We find a lot of engagement from the kids. You know, they really want that knowledge. They want to be empowered. They know that we're working to make it fun.
Let me see what this was. Oh God, this is bad.
Research shows Adolescent girls with access to school-based healthcare are more likely to seek reproductive and preventative care, use contraception, and to be screened for sexually transmitted infections.
In Ohio, the number of syphilis cases actually are increasing. So this is something you need to be aware about.
We really believe that there is no better strategy from a prevention standpoint than knowledge. Making sure that these children have an understanding of what is wellness, what are things that I can do to keep myself well, is absolutely critically important. And knowing day by day, student by student, that we're changing lives is so fulfilling.
Prevention is a particularly important point when it comes to oral and dental disease. Students in the United States miss an estimated 52 million hours of school each year because of it.
How many times a day should you brush your teeth? 2. How many minutes each time?
2.
Can you do that? All right.
Back in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Mound STEM Elementary School partners with several organizations to provide in-school dental clinics. Today, 2 clinics are on site. Case Western Reserve University offers the Healthy Smiles Sealant program. Smile America Partners is running another dental clinic down the hall.
Because we see the children in the school setting, they're familiar with the environment. They also come down with their peers, with their classmates. Everything is open and you're with your friends. There's less fear. And it seems to work out fine.
Cavities are the most common problem they see.
If the decay isn't arrested, you start losing teeth. She has a supernumerary number 4. The children we treat have higher incidence of dental disease than a more affluent population, and school-based healthcare really helps address that problem.
Issues with vision are another common problem that school-based healthcare can address.
So it looks a little bit better than last time I saw you, so that's good. And you feel better too.
This full-service clinic is located inside Garfield Middle School in the Hamilton City School District near Columbus.
Good, almost there. Now close your eyes.
A lot of times children have never even had a vision exam and they're already in 12th grade.
Research shows low-income and minority children have the greatest risk of undiagnosed and untreated vision problems, and 1 in 5 kids who need glasses can't afford them.
Everything looks nice and clear.
The Vision Clinic is just one part of Hamilton's school-based healthcare.
We'll see if we can add another inhaler to try to control your asthma a little bit better that you'll be using every day in the morning and at bedtime.
It started 4 years ago after Primary Health Solutions reached out to the district and proposed a partnership.
We talk a lot about the non-academic barriers to education, the social and emotional well-beings of our students. And so when Primary Health Solutions first reached out to us, school board members and our superintendent were all in, said, yeah, this is definitely a need.
70% of the district's students qualify for free or reduced price lunches. Many families rely on Medicaid or have no health care coverage at all.
I was just checking in. Can you tell me how many are coming from Hamilton freshmen today?
But starting a school-based healthcare clinic is a complex task.
Because everybody likes the idea, but how are you going to put this together and how are you going to make it functional? When you work together and you create this collaborative approach, if I leave my position or the superintendent changes, it's bigger than us individually. Everybody has some skin in the game, as we say.
To support communities in these efforts, the Ohio Department of Education appointed a school-based healthcare coordinator.
The overall goal of school-based healthcare from the Department of Education perspective is really reducing chronic absenteeism. We want kids in the classroom engaged and ready to learn, but we also want to make sure that they're healthy and getting the care that they need to become successful adults. School-based healthcare partnerships do require a lot of effort, but I think ultimately the payoff are these huge improvements in student outcomes and student access to healthcare.
A toolkit on the Ohio Department of Education's website outlines the process and offers resources.
The toolkit also includes different federal, state, and local grants that districts can apply for that can help support some of this work.
One of the tips in the toolkit is for schools to start small.
So you may want the Cadillac of school-based health centers in your facility, but maybe all you need is an immunization clinic, and you're still making strides in the right direction. You're doing it at your own speed, and you're kind of learning the ropes, how to interact with providers, how to interact with other agencies if it's something that's completely new to you.
Good job. Thanks to creativity and collaboration, Hamilton City Schools made the most of its available resources.
The space is always an issue, right? We were able to find extra space with the varsity locker rooms, coach's room, equipment room.
Once they had the clinic space, they tackled the issue of transportation. The district hired a full-time driver to take students from other schools to this location.
Every day, Monday through Friday. It's a well-oiled machine. He's constantly communicating with the school nurses. I'll be there in 10 minutes to pick up, so-and-so. And then he tells the navigator at School-Based Health Center, I'm on my way, they'll be here shortly.
The final step, maybe the most important step, was to figure out how to serve not just the students, but also their families.
Because then once you start to look at this child getting better, a lot of times they convince their parents to come in, or the parents come in to see what's going on with the visit with the child. And then they find out that they're eligible to come and get services. And then you really start to see a change, because not only do you see healthy children, you also start to see healthy families. And healthy families operate differently than families who have a lot of medical issues. It's about helping families succeed.
I've seen a lot of great examples of these partnerships working in a lot of different areas, and that really gives me hope to have as many school districts as possible in Ohio doing some sort of school-based healthcare work.
School-based health centers are great work, and it's exciting work, but I think it's something that really any community can do when they figure out what they need.
It's not often that I have to do a lot of work in convincing people that this is a good idea.
These children are going to run our community. And if we don't invest in our children at a young age, then what is our community going to look like in 15 years?
And I think that makes it a lot easier to get partners to buy in when they realize that this is going to help everybody. It's not just, we're going to do this for schools.
Nice big deep breath.
It then becomes, we're going to do this with schools for all of us.
So I'm gonna pause for a minute.
In October of 2019, REL Midwest held an event where special education directors from across the state gathered in northern Minnesota to discuss post-secondary education and employment pathways of Minnesota public high school graduates. At this event, educators talked about how to close the opportunity gap for students with disabilities by sharing evidence-based practices that help diverse learners succeed in preparing for college and careers.
All students require supports on the pathway to college or employment. We provide things for any given student to ensure that they have choices and that they end up going somewhere where they want to be, doing something that they want to do.
All of our kids are different and they need different things. So we start with interests and strengths and find out their opinions about what they want to do.
Providing differentiated supports for students with disabilities actually helps most students in your school. So if we're providing multiple differentiated opportunities through our college and career readiness activities, we can increase the access for all of our students.
I've been working in special ed for 16 plus years, and they're the forgotten entity, especially at this age.
There is a need to have differentiated supports for scholars with disabilities, particularly for career and college readiness. Just like there's a need for all scholars to access differentiation, we need to make sure that scholars have access to learning in the way that works best for them.
The event today is important to me as a director because I want to share the resources that we received today.
The Minnesota Department of Education is doing a number of things to encourage providing supports to students with disabilities for college and career readiness. We are supporting training of teams from communities across the state of Minnesota in effective practices for transition planning and linking students to post-secondary education employment. We have an employment resource guide and a post-secondary education guide that both provide a framework for the literal conversation between educators, families, students with disabilities, and other involved community partners in planning for a student how they'll move on to employment of their choice or attending a college of their choice.
I think when districts find that they have groups of students that are more marginalized than others, so students with disabilities who often may be Native American or Black or Hispanic, that they really need to select evidence-based practices that are designed to support those particular populations in improving their outcomes.
The advice I have for special education directors who are just having conversations now about programs for post-secondary education employment would be to network with their peers. There's a vast knowledge base in experienced special education directors, and they're all willing to share their experience and ideas for improvement with each other.
I understand it can be difficult to bring in new ideas to a school or a district when it comes to some of these concepts. For any teacher bringing in new strategies when it comes to college and career readiness to their school through any programming, I would say that the students and both the teachers the instructors need to have an open mind.
I turned over rocks, I looked with magnifying glasses, and I saw that there were certain kids who never had access. And so then we started having conversations. All of our scholars deserve this vast experience, and they also deserve post-secondary success.
Some of the resources I was familiar with, but a lot of them I wasn't. And it's nice to have some more tools in the toolbox to share with our counselors and our teachers in the area.
We've got a transition meeting coming up with our teachers coming up soon, so I'm hoping to share a lot of this with them.
I think people think reading, writing, math, and I don't think there's a lot of focus on what happens to these students after high school. And today we learned a lot of different things about just some statistics about where they end up and some ideas on how we can get them to better spots.
What's new for us is that we have students that have used our PSEO programming, which takes them into college settings and college classes. They are now in a setting where they're with same age peers, using assistive technology to help them be successful.
I do believe that it's so integral for kids to have peers around them doing the same type of work.
Success in this work to me probably looks a lot different than most. And for me, it looks like scholars being able to walk across the stage and say, I know where I'm going after this. We have scholars that are talking about going to college for the first time, or have a disability and never thought they could go to college. And so we're stripping away the mindset that only certain scholars get to go to college. And when we start talking about college as if it's, or careers, if it's something that everyone has access to, then that's when we share multiple wins.
Equipping the student, the teachers, whether they're special ed teachers or whether they're regular ed teachers, I think giving them those tools and those connections with industry and connections with support will be a helpful thing for everybody.
I think it's really important to offer differentiated supports to students with disabilities because there is life after high school. We need to give them skills in high school, and once they graduate, they need to know the resources they can tap into to be successful.
I think the fight is different now. The fight right now is making sure that all of our scholars who now have education have equal access to opportunities. That's why this work is so important. So if education is a civil right, then post-secondary success is something that comes along with that.
The work of transition programming is so important because it guides our students to be as successful as possible as they're leaving our setting and going into what their role in life will be.
All of us have great things happening, and unless we have these face-to-face opportunities to really share those, we often lose some of the great things that are happening just around us.
Okay, that was great too. Let me pause the recording. So I was hoping that someone would, join the conversation, but it's okay that they don't. I'm gonna still have something to share. So here we go. I'm gonna start this hopes and high dreams of honoring Black students, I guess. So enjoy the video.
High Hopes in Higher Education, Honoring Black Students' Aspirations is produced in collaboration with Wisconsin Public Television and Regional Educational Laboratory Midwest, putting research into action. Funding has been provided by the Institute of Education Sciences.
When you look at the research, you're finding that Black students, they actually have higher aspirations. So a higher proportion of Black students really want to go to college after high school.
Clearly they have the higher aspirations, but you've got structural reasons why they're not actually enrolling.
The barrier isn't that they're not capable or have the potential. It's just that they don't have the support.
We're wanting to develop a college-going culture.
I want to hear the students say, I love that school, I'm getting ready to apply to that school, I can't wait to attend that school, and I'm going to be a graduate of that school.
In this program, you'll see Wisconsin educators and students taking on one of our state's greatest educational challenges, the disparities in opportunities to prepare for and attend college that face Black students. In the U.S., most Black high school students aspire to attend college, and many hope to continue on to graduate or professional programs. But fewer than 60% enroll in college soon after they graduate high school. And only 40% of Black college students complete their degrees within 6 years. Dedicated researchers and educators are tackling this problem with evidence-based approaches that increase college achievement. You'll learn about these practices and meet some students with high aspirations for higher education. We start by connecting a rich past with a hopeful present open to possibility. Culturally responsive education can make learning more relevant to many students of color. Research shows that honoring a student's culture demonstrates that their own experience is valued.
Today is the Bringing the Gifts My Ancestors Gave Black History Education Conference.
While it's happening in Black History Month, this event looks to the future as much as the past. It's the brainchild of Andre L. Davis, and it's inspired by research from the Regional Educational Laboratory Midwest, Midwest Achievement Gap Research Alliance, or MAGRA for short.
Over the past 2.5 years, I've been working with a group, REL MAGRA, to research best practices and strategies for improving outcomes for Black students. A number of things that really help us just reach our kids, reach and teach them in a different way. We're trying to educate our educators.
If we're doing education research, that we need to communicate our work to educators.
It's all about how we can be more culturally relevant to reach all of the kids in our classrooms.
I want to serve my students to the best of my ability, all of them. And so this is the kind of work that's absolutely necessary.
Just students being people, being heard, being respected, seeing themselves as someone that can succeed in school, That's like the overall message here.
I am somebody. I am somebody.
It's taking inspiration in what previous generations overcame and achieved and passing it on to the next.
Our students are hungry for something that helps to validate them, to help recognize their gifts and talents.
And no one is better suited to deliver that message than keynote speaker Gloria Ladson-Billings.
Dr. Ladson-Billings has always been someone that I look to for how to be a teacher. Her book, Dream Keepers, is foundational for my teaching.
An incredible mentor, colleague, and friend, Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings.
The Emeritus University of Wisconsin professor is widely recognized as the leading scholar and champion of culturally responsive education.
When I first learned of the theme of this conference, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I immediately thought of the image of the Sankofa bird that is prominent during the celebration of Kwanzaa. The word Sankofa, translated, it is not wrong to go back to that which you have forgotten. So this conference is built around successful educational interventions that support the academic success of African American children.
Many of these evidence-based interventions involve teachers developing strong relationships with students and offering inclusive lessons that incorporate Black students' lived experience.
The risk is that if they don't ever see themselves in the curriculum, then they never feel like they can be part of, leaders in whatever field or discipline. And so I think that can be alienating.
Showing that student that I see you, I know where you come from, I understand you. And that relationship piece is really important.
But for some, that need for cultural awareness and inclusion can be difficult to recognize.
Culture is the very essence of the human experience. Everybody has it. Unfortunately, those who are part of the dominant culture don't believe they have culture. They think what they have is truth or the right way. When I first came to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I had students who told me that they did not have culture. In their words, they were, quote, just normal. So I said, well, I guess that means that would make me abnormal. No, that's not what we mean. We're just regular. Oh, that's better.
African Americans developed their own educational traditions, even as they were excluded from full participation in society.
Teaching and learning is deeply ingrained in the African American culture. Indeed, right after the Civil War, one of the first things that the newly emancipated African Americans did was to save up money to establish what would become historically Black colleges and universities.
Connecting with that rich past can hold promise for future achievement.
Today, we need teachers who are willing to see the gifts that our children bring from their ancestors. These teachers have to take seriously the need to read, study, and to learn about our children and their culture and the gifts they bring from their ancestors. This is why Sankofa matters. Thank you.
Another gift Black students can bring is sharing their school experience with their teachers. Hearing from students about their academic and disciplinary experiences in schools can be revealing.
Here they are, without further ado, our MSAN scholars.
MSAN is the Minority Student Achievement Network, and their student panel is the highlight of their annual meeting.
Every year, that is the most powerful learning our adults walk away with. When those young people are given the space to speak their truth in a way that just every single year blows our attendees out of the water. We don't often take that time to be quiet and listen to the students most directly impacted by disparities we see in our schools.
A kid of color does something that's considered wrong or not right, they'll have a longer suspension than somebody that is not of color. And discipline in our school needs to be changed. I feel like everybody should have the same consequence.
Okay, so I think what you're trying to say is if everyone had the same exact consequences, we wouldn't have to have as many conversations like this.
I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, one more thing. Okay, and then
there's quite a bit of evidence in the research literature that says that teachers aren't necessarily treating Black students the same way, and that's the core of the problem, right? That we, despite decades of kind of working on these issues and trying to integrate schools, we still have not addressed that very problem.
These great students are saying ain't nothing new. I say ain't. It ain't nothing new. It's not. You all have heard this before. Preach.
Black students in particular, oftentimes, and I'll say this for myself as well, like if a teacher is feeling, if you can tell that a teacher doesn't feel comfortable with you, that it can make you feel alienated. It can make you feel like, you don't belong there.
Students of color have told us their teachers, especially boys, their teachers don't stand as close to them. They don't get the interaction with their teachers who are
predominantly white. And so the kids have said, stand near me, try to get to know me in that way. So proximity is one. Another really amazing way our kids have articulated what teachers can do to be supportive of their successes. I need you to see the academic me that I can't see for myself. High expectations are really important for students in terms of Black students specifically being successful, which I think is also true of all students as well, right?
Research shows encouraging students to take rigorous courses and maintaining high expectations can build academic skills and confidence.
High expectations, access to rigor, are often concerns for students of color in multiracial schools. How do you all feel about taking AP kind of courses? There we go.
Okay, so I take AP psychology because I plan on doing pre-med in the future. But there are only 4 Black kids in my class. So when it comes to like group work and everything, everyone's like, oh, they can just work together. I wish that AP and honors classes were more diverse. I've just noticed that like a lot of African American students, at least at my school, aren't well encouraged to take rigorous courses.
So I'm 2 years ahead in math, and I have not seen another Black student in any of my math classes since 4th grade. Also, I haven't had students in any of my honor classes that I've taken in high school. I've had these thoughts where like, I'm not going to try as hard because they don't expect me to try as hard anyway.
There's really important research that shows that for teachers who don't necessarily believe that students can achieve, that actually really has really big impacts on their academic achievement.
That's on us as students for not encouraging our classmates, on teachers for not encouraging their students.
Element LR.
Yeah, that one.
We should be encouraging everybody to take a rigorous course at least one time.
Some districts in Wisconsin are implementing the mandatory AP course. And so it's really all about having high expectations for students, right? Telling a student, I know that you can do this. I expect you to be able to do this. And students can actually really excel under those circumstances as long as you give them the supports to be able to do so.
Structurally, we need to make sure that we, support all students from where they come and find out pathways for them to move on in education.
So I feel like when you do those honors classes, it's kind of like a push step for your future.
Even if you're scared or if you don't want people to judge you, like you gotta do what you gotta do in order to achieve your dream.
How the truth is coming out, so make sure we keep this rolling.
Adding diversity to the teaching force increases the chance for a wider range of students to connect with teachers. That helps identify role models and nurture educational aspirations.
If you don't have a diverse admin or staff, how do you expect your students to be able to come to you when issues like this happen?
A lot of kids will say like, oh, well, I vibe with, or I can go to them because they're Black or whatever, not like, but we don't have that anymore. We have 2 Black teachers and probably 4 Black staff. I mean, it's kind of sad to know like that we don't have enough people of color working in our Madison district. And I want to change something. Miss McKinley, she works in La Follette. She's new this year. And when I first seen her, I was like, are you a teacher here? It's weird, no offense, but like I've never seen an African-American teacher.
And you get an opportunity to show other kids that look like you that we can be successful.
Later on in my future, I definitely want to do what she does.
We all want to see people who look like us, who are successful, and think to myself, I can do that.
So we've got a growing amount of research showing that over time, even having one same race teacher can impact college going, can impact achievement.
Research has shown that students tend to benefit from having an African-American teacher. Like all students across groups tend to have higher academic achievement with African-American teachers.
Right now, I'm currently in a program called Teen Scholars, and it's a program for young teens that are willing to become teachers.
The team in Team Scholars stands for Tomorrow's Educators for Equity in Madison.
And I'm just delighted that our high schools are building that pipeline. I think for years, we in education have neglected our own growth and development. We've sort of put up, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can all these things. And I have always said, what about teaching?
Team Scholars helps its volunteers aspire to become teachers and inspire the next generation.
So right now we actually volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club every Monday after school. So I just feel like we need more teachers of color to relate to kids and for kids. So I just want to change it, and that's what the program is for.
Visiting campuses and learning about colleges can inform choices and inspire ambitions.
All right, so right now we are prepping for our BSU, which is our Black Student Union Organization annual HBCU College Tour, which is historically Black colleges and universities.
So we are on our way to Virginia. We are going to be seeing some new HBCU colleges, and I am very excited.
A lot of rich history on just about all the college campuses that we go to. They get to see more students that look like them excelling.
I actually believe that I do see myself at a HBCU college, yes.
At the end of the trip, I want to hear the students say, I love that school, I'm getting ready to apply to that school, I can't wait to attend that school, and I'm going to be a graduate of that school. And so give it up for Memorial BSU. We have some undergrads, we have sophomores, we have seniors. I mean, we got it all.
A few weeks after the trip, Memorial High's Black Student Union welcomes college students currently enrolled at both HBCUs and predominantly white institutions, or PWIs, to their lunchtime meeting.
I actually want to get a memorial. The first one, we all know HBCUs.
From my own research, having older peers can also provide a really core source of support.
Your character will be tested. So you're gonna have all these different cultures and all these different environments all mixed onto this campus that's not gonna be too big.
When I talk to people that go to my school, they're like, oh, I have Black teachers. I'm like, Black teachers? I ain't even I did never see my Black teachers before.
Saying I want to be a Black doctor is kind of like, am I going to make it? Like, I don't really see anybody else doing this.
I have a class of 125 Black African-American students graduating as pre-med majors, so 125 future Black doctors.
So it's kind of eye-opening to me, just let me know that I can do this. There are other people who have done it before me and that will be there to help support me through the process.
Our time to be at a PWI, you're going to be really tired of just feeling like you got to go the extra mile to show that you deserve to be where you are at. There is a pressure, at least that I feel a responsibility to represent all Black people.
For many of these students, their passion and pride are evident.
The fact that my heart isn't here. So it doesn't matter what they throw at me at Tuskegee, I'm going to keep going because at the end of the day, there's people's lives who need to be saved. There's a lot of history at Tuskegee, so our nursing program specifically was the first baccalaureate nursing program in the entire state of Alabama, and that's a huge deal for that to have been at a historically Black college. Like, I'm getting chills just talking about it. Like,
We're doing this. This is Black excellence.
To support students on their college path, research shows that pre-college programs are associated with higher college graduation rates. The University of Wisconsin is committed to increasing its diversity. The UW has created programs that increase opportunity for students traditionally left behind. So, if you spend time on campus, you might hear the question, what is people?
People is amazing and supportive.
People is family. People is unique. People is fly.
So I would say that people is, we are partners for college access and success.
There should be no reason why students from communities of color aren't coming to this institution. And we knew we needed to do a more direct grassroots approach
to attract those students. And so thus was born the PEOPLE program, the Pre-College Enrichment Opportunity Program for Learning Excellence.
PEOPLE creates opportunities for low-income students and helps them reach their goals of college attainment and degree completion. One aspect is a summer on-campus program.
Students love the summer experience. They get to hang out on a college campus. They get to breathe the air, if you will.
Breathing that air means they may breathe easier once enrolled on campus.
College campuses aren't organized like high schools. You know, there's not really an analog that we would be familiar with. Just the familiarity of how things are laid out can make people feel that college campuses aren't as intimidating as they might be ordinarily.
Kaylin Corey is back on campus between his junior and senior years of high school as a PEOPLE scholar.
My sixth grade teacher helped me apply, and I luckily got in.
You have the function name, and to call, all we do is just write the name again.
It definitely opened my eyes to things that I never really thought about. Once I started the PEOPLE program and I started doing workshops in the summer, like about, comp sci and engineering and everything, that's when I started to learn new things and open my eyes to different things, and that's how I know what I want to do now.
If we can get in those young minds early and kind of help set the expectation with themselves and their peer group, then like college is something that you really strongly want to consider and you can do, then that really helps.
But we never called it. So let's call it right now.
We're wanting to develop a college-going culture to get more students thinking about and seeing themselves as legitimately being capable of performing well, succeeding, and eventually graduating from a world-class research-run institution.
Students say, I could see myself being here. I could see myself doing this. This is something that seems reachable to be attainable to me. Anything that a program can do that really shifts a student's perspective in that way, I think is a good practice.
How do we ask the user to make a guess?
PEOPLE targets minority and low-income students from Madison and Milwaukee. Historically, these students have been underrepresented at the university.
Let's see if we got 7, right?
The data doesn't paint us in the most positive light. And so knowing that students had an uphill battle just by virtue of sort of being in the school they were in, and you layer on the additional challenges of what it means to be a kid coming from a community of color, you quickly see that there's a recipe that needs to be changed if you want a different outcome. And so PEOPLE was designed to be that intervention.
You guys as PEOPLE student with us, because next year as a seniors.
The barrier isn't that they're not capable or have the potential. It's just that they don't have the support. And so we really try to provide a supportive and resource pathway to be able to get to college. One of the most important things that we try to provide for our students is called a pre-college advisor.
If you get accepted to Madison, you will attend SCE, the Summer Graduate Institute.
They do quite a bit, actually. So you do quarterly reports. They check your grades every week. They keep up with you. They talk to your parents. They're always in contact with you yourself. He texts me a lot, He's always in contact with me.
That's actually really beneficial for a student to have a one-on-one mentor or to have a support system. About 94% of students who complete our program do enroll in college. And about 50 to 55% of them are coming here to UW-Madison.
Hi, how you doing?
Once PEOPLE scholars enroll at UW, support continues.
We like to say that in the pre-college program, our job is to get them to college, and in our college program, their job is to get them through college.
And what we push a lot of our students to do is really build their full college experience. So not just focusing on the academics, but on developing them as individuals and preparing them for post-graduation planning.
And so having someone there to say, here are some steps that you need to take, here are some ways in which you can feel more comfortable in the college environment and how you can see how you might be struggling in class and here are strategies to deal with that. I think that would be also really helpful.
The big payoff comes when PEOPLE students complete their degrees, often as the first member of their family to do so.
To feel like I've been a part of that journey and to see how they've grown. And, I think to be able to claim a little stake in having some influence maybe in one of their many decisions of where they're at now. And it does feel like family.
that started within the People program. What was your experience like?
There are people who are there to help you to succeed to that next level. And if you challenge yourself, if you don't just take the easy way out, right, you really set your aspirations and high goals for yourself, guess what? You'll achieve it.
Aliyah Ali Mufinanga.
Achieving those goals is the fulfillment of students' dreams and aspirations. And when Black students across Wisconsin are supported in achieving their goals for higher education, it strengthens our state.
For us to have a more educated populace, we all need to have a broader understanding. And this is really a ground-up conversation.
To get there takes intention and effort and investment. Investments in programs that honor students' culture and voice, communicate high expectations, provide them role models in schools, and support them on the path to college.
That's the investment that we want to make. We want to be on that end. That's a win for Wisconsin. That's a win for our nation.
It really is possible for all students to be successful. Absolutely possible.
So I'm going to end that video for right now. What time is it? It's almost 4:39. I'm going to take this and upload it, and then I'll do another short one in a minute. So we have to end this in the recording.